Sup VC, it's Bobby B here. Nice to see you. I'm actually doing a thread today, responding to a thread today, which is something I haven't done for, it's got to be at least a billion years. But I've had a little more time lately, and I've actually had time to do some other videos too. So I thought I'd respond to this because it's one of these 12 question type deals, and the questions I thought were pretty interesting, so I thought, hey, it might be fun to respond to them. This is actually a response to kind of two threads in a way. The first, it's CalicoSilver is the handle, the YouTube handle, and the guy's name is Jeff. Jeff has a really nice channel. He's very opinionated, but it's great. It's a lot of fun to watch. He's got a good sense of humor, and he shows a lot of good music too. But when he gets on his grumpy man opinions, it's really a lot of fun to watch. I think so anyways. So he did this, and then James Griffiths, I've been watching James's videos for a long time, and you know, he puts up a lot of content, so I don't catch it all. But anyways, he responded to Jeff's thread and then added 3 more questions that I thought were pretty interesting too. Well, 2 of them, well, they're all interesting questions, but only 2 of them I really have. One of them I don't have a strong opinion on, but the other 2 I thought were pretty interesting. So I thought I'd address all 15 of those questions together, provide a couple of responses, and just take it from there. Now, you probably noticed I'm not wearing my usual dark-rimmed glasses. I've been taking masks on and putting masks, or taking masks off and putting masks on so much, and it fogs up the glasses. So I'm back wearing the contacts. I hate wearing contacts. Contacts, they're like my eyes. Well, because my eyes are drier than a Bon Iver album. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, most of you don't. I don't know how big Bon Iver is in the vinyl community. I don't think a lot of people talk about him, but there's a contingent of people there that find him absolutely fascinating. So, you know, what I said was a little bit offside, I guess. But anyway. Drinking my coffee. So let me go through these questions here. So the first question, if your musical hero dies, do you avoid their music or do you play it more? Yeah, it's a good question. I find I usually end up playing them more just simply because I feel like listening to them all of a sudden. And this will relate to another question that's on here later on, but I don't really idolize people. I don't idolize musicians. I admire their talent and stuff, but I don't really have a connection to them personally. I have a strong connection to their music, their art, but I don't usually have a big connection to them personally. So for a long time, there wasn't really anybody who died any musician who died that kind of affected me on more than sort of a surface level. But oddly enough, when Neil Peart, the drummer from Rush, died, that affected me a lot more than I ever would have imagined, for a couple of reasons. Like I mentioned, I don't really get affected by stuff like that, but then also I'm not like the biggest Rush fan in the world. In my teens, they were pretty important to me, but as I got, but I certainly haven't been spending a lot of time with them in more recent years. But I don't know, there was something about Neil. I didn't know him personally, but I know people who knew him. So there was a little bit more of a personal connection there. And just by all accounts, from the ones I've spoken to and the stuff I've seen and read, Neil actually did seem like a really genuinely good, decent human being. And yeah, I found that it affected me. I cried, and I listened to, I pulled out the old vinyl records and listened to a lot of Rush for a couple of weeks. And it actually affected me on on an emotional level. So it's interesting. Yeah, I wonder if that'll happen more often as more artists I like pass away and I get older and mushier. But anyways, okay, number 2, do you wince when a new band puts out an album of covers by your musical hero? I don't really have an opinion one way or the other on that, to be serious. Like I like cover songs, but I don't need cover songs, and I never get excited about a covers album. I've listened to some that I think are quite good. I enjoy a good cover, but if all of a sudden they made a ruling that you're never allowed to put out a cover song ever again, I'd be fine with it. So I don't wince, but I don't get excited either. Do you like classical or orchestral versions of pop hits? Again, I don't really, I mean, it's fine for background music or something like that, but I don't go out of my way to listen to that stuff. And I like classical music, I like orchestral music. But when they're covering pop song, you know what does kind of drive me crazy? Is when they do orchestral or classical versions or like elevator music versions of songs like, sometimes when we touch or stuff like that. It's kind of like, what the Dan Hill song was too heavy for this elevator. Like it's kind of, I don't like. Why are we doing mellower versions of songs that are already like totally mellow? I don't understand. I mean, heck, if you want to play, Back in Black on an elevator, I understand you wanting to tone that down a little bit, but sometimes when we touch. Anyways, yeah. So number 4, should bands who change their lead singer keep or change their name? I've gone back and forth on that. I can't give you I've been struggling to come up with a straight answer here, because when Genesis did it, it didn't bother me that much. Although I don't like the Phil Collins Genesis as much as the Peter Gabriel Genesis, but the fact that they kept calling themselves Genesis didn't bother me that much, because Peter Gabriel, to me, while he was a very dynamic lead singer, he wasn't the reason why. He wasn't what made Genesis to me. Like I enjoyed the musical. There isn't very many Genesis songs where Peter Gabriel's voice is the ingredient that took it over the top for me. Usually it was something musically about it. So my initial answer was like, well, no, not if the band all kind of works together. But then I think of Queen, and how calling them Queen after Freddie Mercury left is ludicrous. And I was like, but what's the difference? Because Freddie Mercury also is a very, dynamic personality, but he's not Queen. Like, I enjoy their guitar solos and things too and stuff. So I think it's, it's a bit of a cop-out, but I think it's a case-by-case basis. I think longevity and popularity have a lot to do with it. Journey released a few albums without Steve Perry. Then when Steve Perry became their lead singer, they continued to call themselves Journey. And then when Steve Perry left, they continued to call themselves Journey, and people have a problem with that. I don't really have a problem with that. Anyways, yeah. I think it really does depend on the band whether or not they should do that. Yeah, it might just be safer to change your name, to be honest. I'm going to go with that. Just change your name. It doesn't hurt anybody. If you got a new lead singer, change your name. Yeah, that's my answer. Okay, 5. Do you like or listen to bonus tracks or demos on the end of classic albums? I hate that. I don't, sometimes they're mildly interesting. I'm okay with a whole other album of outtakes and rarities and things like that. But I hate when an album has been perfectly crafted. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And then they tack on these half songs or these throwaway cuts at the end of the album. That makes me nuts. Or there's songs that they consider bonus tracks. I'm like, well, no, I'm not interested in that. And so, no, I don't like that. And if you're going to do that, it should be on a separate CD. It should not be tacked on the end. That's what I think about that. Okay, what do I think of CD box sets where they divide the albums across the discs? Don't like that either. I don't have too many of those, but no, one album per disc. That's what you're supposed to do. Do you hesitate to read your heroes' autobiographies for fear of losing respect for them? Well, that brings us back to the first question there. I don't have a problem with that. I enjoy reading a good story. It's funny, I know these are real people, but I sort of, when it comes to the musicians and stuff, I tend to consider their art more real than them. Like they're kind of like fictional people to me, which is a weird thing to say because they're not. They're real people and should be treated as such. But I don't know. I don't have any. Again, I don't. So when I'm reading their autobiographies, it's mostly just a story to me that I'm reading, and I don't really connect it to the music that much. I do prefer autobiographies that talk about their how they came up with a song or how they wrote a song more than one that just kind of talks about their life. But I do find the life stories fascinating. But no, when they turn out to be jerks, which 99% of them do, or 90% of them anyways, do end up being jerks, it really has no effect on my enjoyment or lack of enjoyment of the music. I'm usually pretty good at separating the two. I don't know why, but I am. All right, number 8. Do you act as an apologist for artists you like when you know deep down they're not all that great? I don't know. I mean, I apologize. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really. I just basically, because again, art is subjective. So I don't think any artist really is great or not great. I think it's all in the eye of the ear, I guess, of the beholder, the behearer. I mean, if you like something, well, then they're great to you. If you don't, so I do get tired of sort of justifying stuff when I say, hey, I like somebody, because I'll say, hey, I really like so and so, and then people will say, oh, how can you like that? It's so blah 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 blah, and I do get tired of that argument where I start sitting there trying to justify. So I guess this is where the apologist thing comes in. I sit there trying to justify why it's such a great album, or why that artist is so great. But then I always get to the point where I eventually just end up saying, well, I like them. Like, you don't like them, I do like them. I don't know. It's art. You're allowed to not like them, and I'm allowed to like them, or vice versa. I don't really have. I mean, that's what's great about art. Like, that's why I like art, music, and art more than things like sports, for example. I mean, sports, it's kind of like, whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner, and that's you can't argue that. You can't say, well, I don't think they're the winner. No, they are. They're the winner. But with music, it's not like that. It's kind of like everybody is entitled to their own opinion, and no opinion is right or wrong. If you like it, or it speaks to you, or it touches you, then then it's great. For you, it's great. And I love when there's artists that I don't like, that I can't stand, but they move somebody. I remember I used to be a really, really big music snob, and I remember coming home from work once, and my wife was listening to a song that I have always just hated. I've always detested it. But my wife was sitting there in front of the stereo, had the headphones on, she was singing along to it, and she was so passionate about what she was singing and what she was listening to. And it was just kind of like, I love my wife, so I really just loved the fact that she was having this kind of personal experience, this emotional experience with something. It moved me. It kind of touched me. So because of that, it's kind of like, well, if that song is her thing, that's great. So I don't apologize for what I like. If I like something, I like it. And I enjoy conversations on why I like it or why other people don't like it. And just as I enjoy hearing other people's opinions too on that matter. All right, number 9, do you feel silly as a collector when you have no time to listen to all the stuff you buy? Yeah, it's weird. I have a couple thousand records, which is ridiculous because I don't have time to listen to it all. But anytime I've bought a record, because of my line of work and other things, I come across records, or because of people I know, I get stuff a lot. So, but if it's anything I'm picking out myself, anything I'm buying, well, I'm listening to it. I buy it because I'm listening to it. I don't buy records just to look at. So yeah, from that standpoint, I feel weird that there's a lot of stuff here that I'll never have time to listen to. But at the same time, you know what? I like being surprised by what's in my collection too. So I like pulling something out and being, what is this? I don't know if I've ever listened to this before, or it's been years since I've listened to this and I don't remember it, and giving it a listen. So that's fun. 10, do you ever get tired of listening to music? And if so, what do you do then? I rarely get tired of listening to music. I like having music on pretty much all the time. But there are times where I do need to shut it off. But those are generally times where I'm just tired of noise, period. And so if I'm shutting off music, it's because I'm going to bed. It's because I'm sleeping. And a lot of times I'll listen to music to fall asleep too. Or I just need silence. And so what am I doing when I'm not listening to music? Nothing. I'm sitting there in peace, just soaking in the vibes, soaking in the sounds of silence, as Simon and Garfunkel would say, even though that isn't the actual line from the song. All right, do you get annoyed by people leaving comments on your channel when it's obvious that they haven't watched it? Well, I've got a very small channel, so I don't get a lot of that. I used to get it kind of early on when I started in the started in the VC and had a few more people following me back then. Yeah, I haven't really experienced it, but if it did happen, yeah, I'd be annoyed by that for sure. You ever think of quitting YouTube? Yeah, of course. I think of quitting all social media. And it's usually just because I'd like to experience not relying on it so much. And YouTube, I'm not super attached to, so that's okay. But and I've gotten rid of other social. I'm not on Facebook and stuff like that. Instagram, I'm on Instagram pretty heavy, and I check it an awful lot. And I could see myself kind of taking a break from that, because you know, there's a lot of real people in my life. So yeah. So you ever think of quitting YouTube? Yeah. So those were the 12 questions from Jeff. Then James added 3 more that I thought were also interesting. The next question: when you get into an artist, do you revisit their catalog chronologically, backwards, or randomly? Generally, I'll go through their catalog chronologically. I'll start from the start and kind of work my way through. What I have done occasionally is I've looked into what their kind of highest regarded album is, or the album that the fans really dig the most, and I'll maybe kind of start with that one. Yeah, don't know why. It's just the way I do it. But yeah, I tend to go chronologically. Problem is, I get so distracted that a lot of times I'll start an artist's catalog chronologically, and then I'll get distracted and I won't get past the first 2 or 3 albums, whether I like them or not, just because I'm like, oh no, I want to follow this artist now. And so I've started more artist binges than I've actually completed. But yeah, hey, that's the fun of being me, I guess. Next question: do you buy and listen to 5 CD album box sets? Yeah, so this is the one question I've never even really seen them. I don't. They sound like a good idea. I have nothing against them. I don't really like. I don't search out CDs very often. I don't buy CDs very often. I've got nothing against them, but when I do buy them, it's either because they're not available on vinyl, or maybe I've gone to a concert and I want to support the artist that's there and they're only selling CDs, so I'll usually buy those CDs. But yeah, I don't really go CD dig. I don't go digging for CDs usually. So yeah, I don't usually do that. But I got nothing against it. And the final question: is there any artist that you've avoided for silly reasons, other than their music? Like any artist that you just avoid just because you're being a snob or a brat or whatever? Yeah, I have to admit, it's usually ones that just people won't stop talking about. I'm a bit of a knob that way. Like, people will go, oh, you have to hear this. You have to hear this. It's the great. And a lot of times it'll be like, there are some genres that I'm just kind of tired of, right? Like folk music, for example. I've got nothing. I mean, I love all the folk music of the past, but kind of modern day, kind of indie folk music, if I hear that it's a guy or a girl with a guitar, I don't know, it takes a lot for me to even put forth the effort to listen to that. But I have been awarded, I've often been rewarded when I've taken the time to do it. But so it's things like that, or friends of mine will just go on and, oh, you have to hear this, you have to hear this art. Oh, they're so great, they're so wonderful. They're kind of like, and then they'll say that they're kind of like the Strokes or something, right? And I'll be like, oh, okay, so that sounds, I mean, I like the Strokes, but I don't go out of my way looking for bands who sound like the Strokes. So yeah, I'm not really interested. So that's not really answering the question, is it? Because in those cases, that is their music. Well, anyways. Yeah, I've avoided artists for silly reasons, but yeah, usually it's overhype. The silly reason is usually overhype, and I think that is a silly reason because a lot of times a band has a lot of hype for a good reason. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that. Wow, that was really rambly. I do have another video, remember I filmed a whole bunch of those Spinny Finds videos in a row. So the third one that I filmed a few weeks ago, it's up and it's ready. I don't know if I'm gonna post it because I'm eating French fries in it, and my chewing sound, it's disturbing. It's bordering on offensive. I might just have to redo that video without the French fries. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see. But been nice talking to you, YouTube. We'll talk again later on Instagram. I am the Vinyl Vagabond. If you're at all interested on following me there, I generally tend to post more often on Instagram. All right, have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye.